Alumni Talks. My name is Ku'u. I am an ACM graduate from fall 2016. We do this every month just so that our students can meet our fellow alumni. They get to learn from their experiences and, of course, ask us questions about our college experience and life after. I'm going to wait for a couple more people to join us. Hi, Nadine. Let's see. Let me know how your week's going, by the way. It's Thursday. I'm really looking forward to Friday. I'm going to post some emojis of how my week's going so far, so you guys let me know how yours is going too. Hello. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. One of my classmates is actually our guest for today. I'm going to wait for him to go ahead and request to join. This is the second time that we're going live on IG, so also let us know how that's going for you. If you like it on Instagram, if you liked it back last semester when we were on Zoom, let me know in the comments. Also, feel free to drop your questions for me and our guest in the comments as well. I mean, if you have something that you're going through in particular, if there are some challenges, some things you'd like advice on as you're going through the ACM program, let us know and we can answer them in our chat. I usually start with asking our guests some questions first, and then towards the latter half, we'll open it up to the rest of you. So drop your questions when you got them, and we'll get to them as we go through the conversation. I'm still thinking about the emojis that I want to use for this week. Feels like a Thursday. One of my colleagues calls Thursday the 3 p.m. of the work week because it really is. It really be like that. I'm going to put one emoji to celebrate that it's Thursday, pre-Friday, as I like to call it. Okay. Just waiting for... Oh, I like that. I like it, just nice. That's a nice emoji, Julian. Are you able to sign in and request to go live with us? Let me know. Going to try. Give me 1 second. I don't have any requests to join yet. Let me invite Julian on. And then we can go ahead and get started. Thank you all for waiting. Again, let me know how your week was going in emojis. Also, drop any questions for us that you have in the comments. We love to hear what kind of things you guys are going through. How's school going? I know it's towards the end of the semester. Some of you guys might be graduating, right? Because it's spring, yeah. So some of you might be graduating. Actually, I heard this will be like the biggest West Oahu graduation in history. There are like hundreds of you guys. So congratulations to everybody who's graduating. And I mean, good luck to everybody else who's still there. All right, let's see. Okay, here we go. I'm also noticing that my camera is like tilting more and more as I go through it. Oh, let's see. Oh, give me 1 second. Trying to add our guest in for today. Thanks so much for waiting. There he is.
Hey there.
Julian, thanks so much for logging in. Are you on your laptop?
No, I tried on my laptop. Now I'm on my phone. It works better.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for switching over for us.
Yeah, of course.
You look good. How are you?
Thanks. Good. I'm good. I'm good. There's a lot going on, but all things considering, good.
Well, I mean, that's good. We'll get into all the things that are going on right now. So, I mean, I just want to let you introduce yourself to everyone. You can just say your name, when you graduated from ACM, and what you currently do right now.
Yeah, so I graduated from ACM in 2016, and I graduated in 2016. I was actually in LA when I graduated. I took an internship out there, and then now there's a big gap between that, but now I'm back in, Costa Mesa, so a little bit south of LA, and I am now doing marketing. I'm in charge of all of marketing for a distribution company for craft beer.
That's cool. I'm sure a lot of people will have questions about how you got into that. I mean, that sounds
Yeah,
like people's dream job.
yeah. It's an exciting one to say the least. It took me
Yeah,
around the world a couple times, but it's good.
that's so cool. Okay, before we get into that, I said dream job. When you were going through the ACM program, what was your dream job?
You know, it's funny. I went into the ACM right after I graduated from HCC in audio engineering. And initially I went through audio engineering because I wanted to be a voice actor and be an announcer. And
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a challenge because it was a new program at the time and it was challenging and it was very music oriented. Not and it was challenging because I wasn't a musician. And then after I graduated, I didn't really know where to go. And West Oahu just conveniently had a new program going on. And so just like HEC, I transferred into that. Me and Janelle and Melvin, we all transferred
Mm-hmm.
over and continued our education. I would say in a sense of basically trying to figure out what to do. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, because of a lack of a better place to be, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
it ended up being really, really great. And yeah, so I went to West Oahu shortly after. And yeah, I continued, and at that time, I don't know if it's right now, if it's a actual degree, but back in the past, it was a humanities degree with a concentration
Mm-hmm.
in creative
Mm-hmm.
media. And I graduated with that, and you know, you have to have a capstone, you have to have an internship, and because I was at HEC before, I kind of exhausted all the internship options in life. And because I had family and friends in Los Angeles, I opted to go to Los Angeles with not really much of a plan. And, you know, that's how I ended up in Los Angeles for an internship.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I thank you so much for catching us up through your story and your college experience. I mean, shout out to all my friends that you mentioned who did the
Yeah,
LA program and then moved over. We actually had Janelle on one of our Zooms before too, and she was
yeah.
great. And that's why we love catching up with the alumni, right? To see where they're at now and how they got there. But going back to your college experience, I'm wondering, like, you obviously you transferred, you were still trying to figure out what you wanted to do. I mean, what was your biggest challenge going well while you were going through college, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so going through college, I wouldn't say the challenge wasn't necessarily, say, for instance, like the classes or the
Mm,
grades.
hmm.
The challenge for me, I went into it a little bit later than everybody else. I did take a a gap between me going to Manoa and then me getting into a professional career that which I ended, and then I ended up going back to school. So I was a little bit older than everybody else going in, and therefore my
Mm,
objective was literally for a career. It was literally trying to figure myself out, and I considered it my last option really to try to figure out what
mm,
I could do. And what I figured out while I was there was, yeah, what was it? It was I really liked being in the creative field. Is all I really
mm,
narrowed it to.
mm,
And it wasn't until about 5, 6 years afterwards that I really found the value of being at West Oahu and going through the creative media
mm,
program. Not about
mm,
what I learned; it's more about how I learned it. Um,
mm.
and that's what I apply daily right now in my life. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I went through for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially with ACN, they offer so much so you can kind of dabble and see the things that you like. I'm really interested to know that you wanted to do voiceover work because you do have the voice for that, friend, if you still wanted to get into that.
Yeah,
But but I mean, I think something that you touched on too while you were talking was just like trying to figure it out, and that's actually what a lot of our students are going through right now. Is um, especially if they didn't pick like a track or they're not really like set on where they're trying to go into right now. I mean, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's trying to find that creative mode?
man, this is just coming from me personally, but if you
Mm-hmm.
know what you're trying to do, I presume everybody's probably right out of high school and probably going through. Not too many older folks like me who went through it, but if you know what you exactly want you do, what you want to do, and you're there, there's probably something wrong with you.
Mm.
but,
I
but
love
it's
that.
or you had it figured out way before, and you
Mm.
were lucky. And there are people like that, like my sister, who just knew what she was going to do from age 7, and
Mm.
but I think that's part of being creative is basically you don't know what really is supposed to happen until you throw the paint on the canvas, and then you're like, okay, you know what, that's a start. That's where you got to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. A lot of the times I tell them, just try. just try something, try anything, because you never know what you like until you're actually doing it, you know? And especially with creative media, you know, it can go into so many different fields. I mean, a lot of people, they think, oh, I immediately have to go to like an agency or something, or oh, I have to immediately go into something with film. And it's like, no, you can actually apply these skills in any field, in any industry. And I think that's a great lead up to what you do right now. Can you tell us a little bit about your work and how you got there?
Yeah, like I said, it's a long story. So I was in LA to do I was actually interning at 11 Sound Studio in Santa Monica, and they do post sound production for basically all the national commercials that you see, Taco Bell, car commercials, just everything. And who hired me was actually Bruno Mars's sister, Tiara Hernandez, actually hired
Stop.
me there. Yeah,
Stop
so
it.
she was the one who hired me, and she actually went to KCC at the time, and that's how the conversation started.
Mm.
And she actually quit shortly afterwards, after she put me on. And I was
Mm.
basically just a regular intern at a sound studio, which is basically grabbing lunches, cleaning the plate,
Yeah,
folding
that's what it
laundry.
is.
It's like that's
Yeah.
what I do for the most part. And I finished that intern with no problems, but there was no job lead to it because it was very close niched. And
Mm.
they actually they offered the job to somebody who didn't even speak English. She was just pretty. And it just,
Stop.
this is the, I felt that this was the Hollywood, or this is the LA lifestyle. There is a level of who you know, are you pretty
Mm-hmm.
enough, whatever it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's entirely true, but I
Mm.
didn't get the job, and I didn't really want the job anyways. Um,
Mm.
I was more interested in Activision across the street. And I actually
Yeah.
went across the street one day. I went over there and I was just like, so, what's this entail? I've heard of Activision. I don't know really what it is. And at that time,
Mhm.
there was a company called Blizzard that was really kind of like growing out of it. And I think it was owned by Activision at the time. And ironically,
Wow.
now it's 15 minutes up the road, their
Mm.
headquarters.
Wow.
And anyways, I tried to get into that and I didn't get into that either. So, like everybody else, I graduated without a career path, without a goal, without a destination. And all my advisors and everybody that I cared for said, well, write down what you like to do and what you don't like to do and go in the direction of what you like to do. And ironically for me, it was beer. I wrote beer. and, and, um, and sure enough, I went back to my folks' house, place up in Paso Robles. It's about right smack between LA and San Francisco. And right across the street was one of the biggest breweries in the US. It's called Firestone Walker. And
Mm.
no plan, I got hired and I worked
Wow.
there because I'm a home brewer. And so anyways, I started working at a brewery just as I ever envisioned. And yeah, and I started doing sort of marketing there. And
Wow.
then one of the customers there was my current boss, who actually has an exporting and importing business in Japan. And that worked
Mm-hmm.
well because I speak Japanese and I have both passports. And so I actually, without much of a plan there either, I joined him, and without a whim, I moved to Japan and worked for him for the last 4 years. And while I
Wow.
was there, so back to the story about the voiceover. So while I was doing that, I did actually do voiceovers in English in Japan. So I joined an agent and I recorded a demo, and I've done a few narration gigs for big brands, JCOM, Bravia. I did Bandai Digimon once for a card game.
What?
Really, it was a lot of fun. It was everything I expected, and it was just a side gig. It was a side hustle to what I did mainly as a marketer in craft beer in Japan. But I lived up what I sort of wanted to do, but it obviously was never a job. It was a side hustle at best. Um, and yeah, so I did that for 4 years, and I recently moved back to Los Angeles about in January, and I'm doing the same thing now except for the LA branch.
Wow. Wow. You've been all over the world with your career. So
Yeah,
that's
last
really,
four.
you know, yeah, gotta get your passports and your Duolingo ready, guys. No kidding. But that's so awesome for you. I mean, I'm really glad that you still got to work out those things that you loved. And I love that you wrote beer and then it was it. That was it. You got into it. I think sometimes people get stuck in the details, you know, like, oh, what if I like this, but what if it's not a lot of money? Or I like this, but what if it, you know, it's the way that you made it sound. It actually sounds pretty simple.
Yeah, well, it's everything as you said. It's I think one, like I said, there's nobody who really has a plan. Just stick to a
Yeah.
plan. And two, there's
Mm.
never it's never enough money. So it's
Mm.
come down to realize the truth. It's if you pursue passion, it's more than likely not going to pay you what you want to be paid. So it really comes down
Mm.
to if you were able to write it down, and it's like, I bet you everybody says figure out what to do, but I don't think too many people actually write it down and look at it to a point where they're like, okay, that's what I do. And that's what really helped ultimately, was for me to actually write it down, a pros and cons list. And I come to realize that the only pro that I had was beer, and there was a million cons. And the path became a little bit easier. You know, I would have never expected to do marketing in beer. All I like was beer, and I like being creative. And then all of a sudden, there is in fact a beer creative job somewhere.
Yeah.
Never expected. So it's just, I think it's just expecting the unexpected for the most part.
I love that too, expecting the unexpected. I'm going to tell everybody, all the students in our audience, write down the things that you love and the things that you don't love. Start
Yeah,
it today.
I think it'll really help shape your direction, you know, and
Mm,
it's, you know, they always say it's not a destination, it's the path and it's the journey. And that's truly what
mm,
has been for me. And I never saw it because I went back to it later. I did initially see it as a destination. Like it was basically like it's gonna be
mm,
my ticket to a job or a career.
mm.
And it was not necessarily, but it did equip me to sort of have the right mentality to get the job that I have now, or the future jobs, whatever might be holding.
Yeah, yeah. I also like that you were talking about internships. You know, a lot of our kids need an internship to put on their resume to say that they've got experience. And I'm wondering if you have any advice for them while they're looking for internships. I mean, I think the biggest thing is it for me, and a lot of what I tell them is like, just get experience. Like they just want to see experience. And I love that you mentioned what it's like to work as an intern. That's kind of like what it sounds like to be a PA, right? You're just getting lunch, making sure people got their scripts, all that kind of stuff. And I guess for some people that might seem, you know, like, oh, but that's a lot of industries, you got to start from the ground. So, got any advice for our kids looking for internships?
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn between my experience and just what I've seen, and also the fact that I have internships or
Mm.
interns go higher in the grad side, and it's really, yeah, I'm torn between the fact that if you should not see an internship as it's going to lead into a job
Mm.
unless it's actually a company like Disney who actually has a intern program seasonally, and they
Right.
probably hire within that the best within that. I don't know. I never went into it, but
Mm.
all the other interns, for the most part, I think is literally it's to get lunch. It's to fulfill the job function that nobody else wants to do.
Mm.
Um, so if
Mm.
that's the case, then I would see it as, and one of my biggest regrets was not utilizing that time as a great networking time, right? And
Right.
network something that I would do now as a, you know, a little bit older and a little bit later in my career. Networking is what
Mm.
it's all about. And we keep
Mm.
hearing networking this, networking that. But in all fairness, I don't think anybody straight out of high school is going to know what networking means other than calling their friends. So it's, you know, it doesn't hold much value until you're actually in it. So the internship for me, for the most part, my best advice is that, you know, enjoy it,
Mm.
and really more so than doing what everybody tells you to do within, of course, it's a job, so do it, but
Mm.
it's enjoy it and sort of reinstill and propel your passion more than anything in it. You're in it,
Mm.
and you're not even sure you're going to be in it later on. This might be as
Mm.
get in being and having a career in what you've always dreamed of doing, right? I know that sounds
Mm.
cruel, but I almost lost it, and I did lose it for a little while. And I think a lot of
Mm.
people go to college and not use their college degree, and an
Mm.
internship is a great first step into the career that they wanted, right? Rather
Mm. Mhm.
than not, there's a different perspective that should be seen in an internship.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. And I love that you emphasize networking because you're right. Do kids know what networking is now? I don't think I did when I went, you know? And
Social,
another thing too, yeah, I follow them. No,
yeah, LinkedIn.
but oh my gosh, no, seriously. When I was interning at NBC, they just everybody's on LinkedIn. They always go to the mixers, you know, really try to get to know like the higher ups in that company so that I mean maybe it won't get you a job, but at least that'll get you some face time, you know. But I also know that that's like really hard to do, especially if you're, you know, a little more like introverted. If you know, I know that a lot of like our kids are, you know, they're more to themselves, so it's kind of harder to put yourself out there and do that. So yeah, that's another challenge, I think. But thank you for that advice, and I love that you really put it into perspective for them too. I mean, that's the other thing that's really hard is like internships don't usually lead to a job, so just enjoy it while you have it. I kind of want to get to know more about what you do in your everyday career, and I'm wondering how have you used the skills that you learned in ACM in your job title now?
Yeah, so ACM was pretty, when I went through it, it was pretty broad, right? I learned Photoshop on the first day, and I learned script writing, and I learned just a lot of stuff. But it wasn't enough to be a master in anything, which is great, which is exactly what it should be. It was a good time for me to sort of dabble in a lot of things and sort of figure out what it was that I was good at, which I didn't, but but until
Mm,
later. So right now, my current job is basically a global content marketing manager, and I call it content marketing is because I sit between a producer, namely the breweries, right? So all these breweries
mm,
beers that you see on the shelves right now are the producers, and then the people who buy it are the grocery stores where you see it at the the Vons, the Safeway. I forgot what Hawaii Foodland.
food
It's
life. Yeah.
right, stars, those guys, and then individual bars. I sit in between those two, right? B2B, B2C, producer and whatnot. I sit right between it. And I basically now be the liaison between the marketing team on the brewery side and the guys who are purchasing it. And
Mm,
so there's a million beers out there, there's a million products out there that everybody wants to sell at the grocery store. Now, how does their product stand out on the shelf? That's where marketing comes in. Now, I myself, when I was in Japan, I did a lot of the localization because I was in Japan selling to Japan. I take these material that the breweries have a brilliant marketing department, some of them, not all of them, but they have a brilliant marketing department, graphic designers, they really work on their brand. My job was to localize that in Japan without
mm.
diluting the perception, right? Following their brand guidelines, their colors, their fonts, basically selling their story to a foreign market who has no idea what being high is about, but that's what their culture is about, right? But without actually offending the Japanese culture, which is localization. And now
Mm.
I do pretty much the same thing on a global scale. So not just Japan, I do it to Taiwan, Chile, Australia, and yeah. So I don't really physically create content. I just basically manage all the content now, and I
Wow.
forward that off to the markets.
Wow. That's so cool. So what is like your daily task? Like what are you doing? Do you get to work from home? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I do have a nice office in the Port of LA. We actually have a warehouse there with a lot of beer, more beer than
Mm.
in your life, which is none of it's mine. So it does unfortunately. Um, but I can work from home, and oftentimes I do travel a lot. I'm actually going to Oregon next week to go visit a few breweries over there because I am going to film what their brewery's about in the perspective of the Japanese
Mm.
market specifically. And then I have supposed to go to Minneapolis the week after that, but I really don't want to go that far for a week. And so I did that one. But there's a lot of traveling involved to actually physically go to the breweries and actually see it in person and film it, do creative work, do interviews, and then bring it back and then basically put captions on the respective languages where the market that I'm sending it to.
Wow.
Um, so that's a big portion of my job is basically taking what the foreign market wants. Say Japan said, I want to do a promotion on this particular brand. Then I go to the brewery and talk to them and say, hey, they want to do this. What can we do? Let's collaborate. Let's build a campaign. Let's build an event. And then let's pitch that back to Japan and then tell them this is how much it costs. This is what it
Mm.
entails. We can send it out to you next week and you can do it then. What I need out of you is reporting back so that I can actually tell them how it did.
Mm. Wow. You are very important. You are that key middle person to getting people their beer.
Yeah, yeah. But more telling the story because there's a lot of beer out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
craft beer is a great, fun industry right now because everybody started. It's a really passionate industry. We talk about creative
Mm.
industry, like graphic arts, video game design, sound design, whatever it is. But craft beer is an art. Culinary is an
Art.
art, and to be able to
Mm.
tell the story is pretty exciting.
That's wonderful. I mean, I love what you're saying about telling a story because a lot of ACM is getting to do that creatively, right? And like everybody has a story in a different mode to tell that in. So I really love that you found that for yourself in this industry, Julian. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I'm just going to give a reminder to everybody that's watching. If you have questions for Julian, leave it in the comments. We'll get to it towards the latter half of this. We're almost about halfway through, so please get them in. I mean, I'm so fascinated by the career that you have, and I'm wondering if you have any advice for our ACM students who want to get into marketing.
Yeah. One of my biggest regrets that I have even to this day,
Mm,
again, this is going into it later on in life, right? Not expecting it.
mm,
I never thought of my wildest dream while going through ACM that I would be in this position. Um, it's it's learning how to measure my success. You know,
mm,
because when you get into the corporate world, when you get into basically money, being in ACM was amazing because it's a safe environment. Everybody's very, they push you to be your best, and there's no real consequence other than your grade, you know. But it's for the most part, it's a great place to learn and grow. But when you're in the real world out there, it's real somebody's money. It's always somebody's money. As I always say, my catchphrase in marketing is always somebody's money. And they're always concerned about ROIs. And marketing is one of those things that it's really a challenge to sort of, what is it, sort of present your worth to them because you're not in sales,
mm,
bringing money directly to them, right? And a lot
mm,
of the people that I have worked with in the past see marketing as, well, we're just drawing pictures. Why should you be paid? Or can you do it quicker? You know, it's not
mm,
easy for the most part. So I always, one of my biggest regrets is not finding a way to measure success in marketing. And that's probably
mm,
basic of the basic, but I missed the basics there. And that could be
mm,
analytics data in terms of how many viewers, how many, portfolio. Your portfolio is big, right? I took that for granted. I never kept all my work. And I
yeah.
remember when I was there, we had to open up a Behance account. Didn't know
Mm.
what that was at the time, and and I all I had was a Google Drive, and I really, really wish that I think one of the best works that I've ever had was in college, and if you have that now, you can still use that. It doesn't go away
Mm,
because it's part of you. So I would
mhm,
say my best suggestion to you in school is basically find a way, keep your work, and basically find a way to measure your work and success so that you can
mm.
present it to somebody and basically say, I'm worth it. And I know you're
Yeah.
worth it. We all know you're worth it. It's just, I don't think the guys who are paying the money always get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Charla said, there, yes, amen, about your keeping your work and making a portfolio. This is the plug, guys. Make sure you got your portfolios, your websites up to date with all the work that you're doing in school because it's evidence of what you're doing and your skills, you know? It's like a living resume.
Yes, that's
I'm
exactly.
Yeah. She also said, "Oh, this is so great to hear. You're giving great advice, Julian. I hope." And I know that you
Like
really got
corporate
everybody listening.
advice. It's,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love what you brought up about marketing too, because I think a lot of, especially us on the more creative side, we just think it's like pushing and pushing and pushing content, you know? But it's also like on that back end, having all of that data, knowing what's successful, and especially for you, knowing your audiences, right? I think is so essential for this. Charlotte said, students need to hear this. Charlotte, you're funny. Last plug for anyone, if you have questions for Julian, please hit us up in the comments. I mean, I want to know for you, Julian. I guess, you know, a lot of our students will be graduating soon and they're going to be looking for careers, and a lot of them will be looking for internships, and some people might just go into another career and try to work their way through. I mean, for you it was a really, I mean, I love the example of writing pros and cons. Again, guys, write the pros and cons. But I wonder for you, do you have any advice for people who are, you know, just working around and trying to figure it out? And a lot of the times I tell kids to have patience also and like take the time to understand yourself. I know that when you're in school, you got work, and you got all this other stuff, and it's so easy to burn out, right? Especially as we all live through this pandemic. You got any advice for our students who are trying to push through and get through the rest of the semester to graduate and looking onward into their careers?
Yeah, it's a, I feel like it's a really competitive world out there, and
Mm,
it's there's a lot of jobs open, but there's a lot of really, really high qualified people who lost their jobs at some point who are going in to the workforce, right? So here I am, I'm the, I built the marketing department for a company. I don't qualify for an assistant job somewhere else because I don't know how to quantify my work. So all I can suggest for them is really, as I said before, it's keep your work. And then when you build your resume, it's basically the only way you're going to put your best foot forward. Unless you know somebody, there is a way to network. I don't know how great it is in Hawaii because I think everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
But going to LA was not any better because then you're nobody, and
Mm.
therefore, and you're literally nobody. And you think your resume is great? No, it's basically one of a million that goes in. So when somebody opens up a job search, you probably see it on LinkedIn or on Indeed or something. You can see how many people applied, right? And
Right.
I just saw the thing post up at 6 a.m. over here, and there was 57 applications already. And it's
Mm.
competitive field out there. And I think now the world is really going to understand what marketing is because everybody's remote. They're basically about promoting their business. And I see a lot more marketing jobs out there than I've seen in the past. But that being said, that means it's really competitive. So
Mm.
is the more content you have, it's content. It's always content. What you did. I mean, if there's any measurable that I never really understood is basically the basic is how much content you have. It's
Right.
if you can show it, if you can show what you've done, then you've already a little bit better than anybody else, right? So
Mm.
keep your work, and most jobs, most creative jobs that you apply to will ask for a portfolio.
Yeah.
Have one. It's if you
Have
don't,
one.
don't apply, don't even try.
Have one. Have one, guys. Have one.
Have it.
I like a lot of what you're bringing up, and I'm wondering for you, what do you see yourself doing in the future? I mean, what are your big plans? I mean, you just moved back to the States, so even if it's just your own thing and not a job thing, I mean, what's it looking like for you in the future, Julian?
It's so I created this marketing department in my company right now, and there's not much else I can do other than, and I've had people work for me in the past in my department, and it's kind of I hit a ceiling. I feel like I've hit a ceiling at some point
Mm.
too. And one thing that another regret that I have from school is, or I wouldn't say school, just in general, is that I like to learn. I like to keep
Mm.
growing. And I think that's
Yeah.
another skill set for everybody to have is just basically be hungry and always want to learn and be better. Um, John Vieira told me in HCC when I was at Community College doing audio engineering, everything I learned today on my first day, everything you learn today is going to be obsolete by the time you graduate. And that's absolutely true. It's
Mm-hmm.
because technology changes, everything changes, the world changes dramatically in the 6 months, right? In 6 months time. So it's just really staying hungry and wanting to learn all the time. And I hit that ceiling. And so I actually, strange as it is, I kind of want to take a step back and I want to work for a big company and
Mm.
basically learn correctly, from a business standpoint that's actually successful,
Mm.
bigger than our company, which is basically every other.
Mm.
But it's a
Right. No, yeah.
Blizzard up the road over there, right? I don't play much video games, but I know that it's a very respectful company just by word of mouth, and their campus is amazing. Their campus looks, they're they have a statue of like some like video game character, and that's just like
Mm.
accepted culture. And I want to be a part of something that is bigger than me, and my current
Mm.
role now, this is as big as it gets. Me, this is what I build, it, and I want to be
Yeah.
something big. So yeah, join a bigger
Yeah.
company is what I want to do. And I want just
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and I always ask that question because I really want to drive home for students. Like, you might get into a career, but you don't have to get stuck in it, you know? You can keep growing, you can keep learning, you can move and shift and adapt to new things because, I mean, you have so much talent, you have so many skills, you can take it to other places. And I think a lot of the time students get locked into stuff, like this is what I have to do. But being adaptable, especially in the times that we're living in, and in the industries that we have, I mean, adaptability, guys, adaptability. This is going to be my last call for students. If you have any questions for Julian, please drop them in the comments. I only have a couple more questions for Julian left, so if you got anything, let us know and we can ask him now. this is my second to last question. I always like to ask this for me personally, honestly, because I love to see where everybody gets their stuff from. But where are you looking to for inspiration? What kind of sites, what kind of people do you follow? Like, what really brings you inspiration for when you're working on these marketing campaigns?
Yeah, so I work closely with the breweries, right? And
Mm,
so I do actually look at the individual breweries because they have their own identity, they have their own marketing team, they have their own style. And
mm,
the one I like the most out of all the breweries is actually the brewery that I used to work at. It's called Firestone Walker, and their
mm.
site is simple, it's amazing, it's to the point. Um, I wish I took like a design class. I know Charlotte had one back then. It was like
Yeah,
design. I wish
yeah.
I took. I really do because my Photoshop is open 24 hours for me. It's always open because I have to change file sizes and make conversions and actually make POPs really quickly on the fly. So, on a given day in Japan, I'm pumping out, two or three different ads of the same product in different forms. And I really wish I learned how to like design it correctly, but Firestone does it really, really well. And then other than that, I simply Google search exactly what I want. So I piecemeal. I don't say what I want, like what I'm envisioning. I see a whole thing that I kind of want. And if I don't know how to
Mm,
do it, I say, okay, well, then I want to be able to do this. I have to Google search specifically a portion of what I'm searching. And then I would make that a part of my whole thing, right? And then I would do something else, and then it becomes what it is, right? So it's a combination of a lot of inspiring things that I can get from. I start from Google for the most part, and then I branch off and look off into where it came from. And
mm,
sometimes I find a great artist that I like that I'm just like, you know what, this guy's style is really great. I like his color scheme, and therefore I'm going to make this next poster in this pastel blue brown color. It's
mm.
from a simple Google search on something very specific.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get what you're saying. I save a lot of my, like, if I see something that I like, I'll save it to like a Pinterest board, or if I like see something on Instagram that's like really cool typography or a cool color palette, I save it just in case I want to use it later.
Yeah, yeah,
I got one question actually. I think his name is Gavin. Said, Julian, what steps have you taken, if any, to be part of something bigger? I think he means what have you taken, to get to that next step in your life.
yeah. This is a very relatively new outlook for me in terms of trying to be
Mm,
something because it's always been me, and I'm still in that role right now, right? And I don't ever have to. I don't
mhm.
have to leave it. I absolutely don't have to leave it.
You don't, yeah.
I have dependents. I should not be leaving it. I can't just leave a job one day.
Right.
So all I
That
can do
too.
is basically network, right? So utilize my position, talk to people who I know. For me, I personally like to branch outside of what I'm doing because I don't want to be out of beer. Um, I've been doing it long enough, but that's why
Mm,
I'm getting this inspiration from just driving. And Charlie, I think, wrote "Why Blizzard," and
yeah.
it's not because I know the game; it's because I drive by it every morning to work. It's because it's there, and
Mm,
just happens to be there, right? But and then I did actually Google it and I looked it up and I was like, wow, this kind of reminds me of college a little bit because everybody's so passionate about what they do, and it's
mhm.
like going to college but being paid for it and
Right.
being able to collaborate. And I kind
Mm,
of yearn for that. I yearn for the life that I had.
mm,
And that's only, I can only say that because I've been in the corporate world for very many years. But at some point, it's just great with these creative people. And so that's the only steps that I've taken so far is basically just doing my own research in terms of what kind of companies, where's the end goal that I want to be end up, and
mhm,
who does it better, and
mm,
who allows me to grow and allow me to remain creative, and that kind of narrows it down significantly. So if I come down to it, if I narrow down to five companies, then
mm.
I can spend the next 2 or 3 years building myself up for that,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
have the luxury of doing that because I don't have college, like a degree, or what is that, the graduation date coming, but
Right.
I have time to basically build up for what they're doing. I do research in terms of what these companies are looking for, what kind of jobs are they hiring for, and then I will go ahead and try to work on that skill set so that I am
Mm,
marketable to that kind of position is what I'm doing.
mm, mhm.
But it's
Yeah.
not a tomorrow thing. It's not a next 6.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You got to work on it, you know? And I like what you brought up about networking for me. As I'm like transforming my role at the place that I'm at now, I'm actually interviewing and talking and networking with people who have a job role that I would like. So that might be a suggestion for everybody who's watching is, you know, if you know someone, if you see anyone on LinkedIn who has like a job that you would like ask them to coffee, ask them for a Zoom talk. There are a lot of like online mentoring programs that you can find and kind of get into to meet the people that have your dream job. So Google is great, guys. I'm gonna say
Yeah,
Google is great.
cool.
We got a two-part question, I think, from Jasmine. I'll read it out loud. Sorry for coming late, but how did you know that you wanted to be a global content marketing manager? I feel this is a stray away from the usual astronaut, teacher, firefighter. Or was this an opportunity that you jumped on and am enjoying the ride? You were given lemons and now you are making lemonade, if that makes sense. Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah,
No, it's not confusing. That's not confusing. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. No, I didn't know I was going to get into marketing. When I joined West Oahu, I was going to do ADR work, or I was at least going to be an audio engineer, or at least do sound design for video games or movies or whatnot. It just that opportunity wasn't presented, and it wasn't anywhere near where I was at. Now, my being a global content marketing manager was basically created, and it was born out of me working for a company and identifying a need for the company and fulfilling it. And then for me, that's why I say that wasn't a traditional route. I don't know the basics in terms of how to measure my success because I basically did what was necessary for the company at the time. And I did all my research and trying to figure out what technology is needed to spread email campaigns. What kind of cloud service do I need to be able to sort of spread digital assets to the right people with the right parameters, right? So a lot of my own research built, or at least a lot of my own research is what I did to build my marketing department. And then I branched off from sales or whatever I was doing at the time to become my own marketing team. So it wasn't that I knew what I was going to do. The only thing I knew was beer, and I left that. I didn't really leave it, but it
Yeah.
evolved. Let's just say that it evolved into what it is today. I wasn't aiming for it. Now I'm aiming for it. Right now, as I get older, and trying to get out of it, I am trying to aim for a specific company and location. But I
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Um, Gabby slash Gavin said thank you. And he actually has another question. Let me read it. I'm not sure if you already answered this, but what is your favorite project that you have worked on during your time at ACM?
Oh, my ACM. It's my favorite one. So I took a lot of, I probably took the same basic classes as all of you, and I think there's a little bit of a few of them that I liked. One was, it was Charlotte's class, the basic Photoshop class, and I made a magazine cover in Japanese. So
Oh,
this back in, before I moved to Japan, obviously, and I had an interest in being in Japan because I'm half Japanese. So I made a magazine cover in Japanese where I cut out a picture of a girl in a kimono. Don't even
mm,
know where she came from. And then another background of one of those Japanese pagodas. And then I simply copied a Kansai something travel magazine or something like that.
mm.
And that's the only work that I actually still have to this day. I found it. I
Show
actually
it.
found
No, I'm kidding.
it was just hidden somewhere in my personal Google Drive. But it was one of my favorite works that I've done to this day because it looks good. I still think it looks good because despite 5, 6 years later down the line, um, I really enjoyed that one a lot. And another one that I enjoyed was Liliana King's class, and that was in After Effects. Uh,
Mm,
I knew Premiere, I knew a lot of video editing software, but not much about After Effects. But I really embraced that. And a lot of the projects were basically short experts, and I really enjoyed doing that. I can't say there was one specific one that I enjoyed, other than they were all really fun.
yeah, yeah. I mean, visual effects guys, that's where it is. Most Marvel movies are mostly visual effects. So Charlotte said she remembers and she has it too. So it must have been great. And now I want to see it, guys.
She kept it. That's great, yeah. But I mean, everything there was really great. A lot of memorable moments, like working with Gary Shimokawa, right, in
Mm,
in his class with film, and also meeting the guy who created Final Fantasy. There's all really great experiences that really shaped what being creative.
Yeah, yeah. I know I really miss those events and getting the chance to be able to meet all of those people in that industry. Yeah. Ben said, it's good to see that you kept pushing to reach a tangible goal, Julian.
Ben.
Yay. Jasmine said, thank you, Julian. I feel very inspired to follow my passions and nothing less. Before I might have second guessed myself and settled for less, but now I see how much I should believe in myself.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Believe in yourself. And then Gabby said, we love that. And again, always, always keep your work, even if it's student work. Yes, guys.
Keep it.
Moral
Keep
of this IG Live, keep your work. We're gonna sign off. So if anyone else has any other questions, let us know now. Julian, any final words for our students about the program, about what you're doing now? Go ahead.
Yeah, just you guys are in the best years of your life, the best times of your life.
Yes.
The people who are sitting next to you are not just strangers. They're not just classmates. These are people who are going to inspire you. Your teachers. Oh, yeah, that's another funny story. One of my teachers actually lived in Japan, and I never actually met him when I was in Japan, but I've always been in contact with him. But you never know where you're going to end up. You never know where inspiration is going to come from. Just keep an open mind. Don't say this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to get into, because it's going to change in 6 months. The world's going to change in 6 months very quickly.
Seriously.
And whatever you're doing now is probably going to be irrelevant, or it's going to mean everything 2 years from now. You don't know. Just keep it, enjoy it, and embrace the change and grow with it, and learn that whatever you're doing right now is not about what you learn, it's how you learn it.
I love that. That's a great way to end it. Not about what you learn, but how you learn it. That's great inspiration. This talk was so inspirational, Julian, not just for our students, but even for our teachers like Charla, who's loving this video very much right now. And then even for me, as a former classmate and fellow professional, I learned so much from you, and I'm so, so, so grateful that you were able to come on with us. We're going to sign off, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us this evening. Stay tuned. We'll be announcing the next one probably in the next semester, as we know you guys are graduating soon and closing out the semester. So good luck to all of our kids finishing up this semester. Congratulations to all of our graduates, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Julian.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Later.